and the positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement, yeah, you can do. You can do. There is a book written by Shiv Khera, You Can Win. Have you read this book?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. You can win. You can win. You should purchase that book that you can win. Okay. So that is the belief of the behaviorist theories, that behavior will be constructed through continuous exposure of the thing you are intended to learn, and through positive reinforcement. And again, initiated by J.B. Watson and B.F. Skinner, we have got another behaviorist theorist, actually the famous one. His name is Pavlov dog experiment. Okay, we will be dealing with the experiment later on in the second half of this class. The theory was articulated with the higher affirmation and the Skinner. So J.B. Watson and B.F. Skinner, what did they say? They said that behavior will be constructed through continuous or extensive exposure to the target thing you are intended to learn. Okay, and it will be part of your behavior, and that behavior will be expressed through some responses. Observing that theory, Pavlov initiated and affirmed which one? Affirmed this one with an experiment, that behavior is constructed through stimulus and through extensive exposure of the thing you are intended to learn. If you are intended to learn second language, you have to be exposed to the target language quite frequently and extensively, and through the quite exposure to the target language, it will be a part of your behavior and you will show your responses. And in this regard, these are the key components of behaviorist linguist theory. That is, American psychologist J.B. Watson, the first person, originated the idea first time that means the behaviorist linguist theory. Russian psychologist Pavlov, and Pavlov affirmed and he initiated another term relating to behaviorist language theory, that is classical conditioning. Classical conditioning. What is classical conditioning? There are some classic literature. There are some classic shot. Cricket আমরা বলি না, টেন্ডুলকার একটা বল মারলো, classic shot. Okay, so behavior will be conditioned with something. Okay? And what are the things? That means you have to be consciously or extensively exposed to the target thing or target language. That is behavior. And for this reason, it is conditioned on extensive deal. And observing that kind of condition, Pavlov named this a condition that is called classical conditioning. Classical conditioning. And next time, American psychologist Skinner, B.F. Skinner, he said about another kind of conditioning, that is operant conditioning. Operant conditioning and classical conditioning. That's like, just like that, operant conditioning, if anybody has beaten someone, কাউকে যদি আমি জোরে চিমটি কাটি সে তো কাঁদবে, আর কাকে যদি আমি দেই তাহলে সে হাসবে, isn't it? This some condition. Behavior will be dependent on some condition. So these two persons, Russian psychologist Pavlov, he initiated classical conditioning, and American psychologist B.F. Skinner, he has talked about operant conditioning. Okay, so in order to understand the early importance that was attached to the role of the first language, it is necessary to understand the main tenets of the behaviorist learning theory. So up to the end of the 1960 decades, views of language learning were derived from a theory of language theory in general. Okay, and SLA, based on the actual language learning, a learner produced a few attempts to examine the process of SLA, especially before this. Okay, and for the dominant school of psychology, they were informed that most discussion of language learning was behaviorism. So up to the second half, upwards 1960 decades, actually audiolingualism started its journey from Second World War, and then it go up to the apex. Why? At that time, audiolingualism dominated language learning methods and approach, and that goes up to the 1960 decades. And for this reason, we can say up to 1960 decades, Up to 1960 decades, the language learning and teaching theories or approaches were dominated by this theory. What is the theory? That is the theory of behaviorism, the behaviorist language theory of learning. And there are two components in this behaviorist learning theory. What are the components? That we have gave the description. That is habit. Another one is errors. Habit will be there. There will be errors will be there. Okay. So habit in psychology is set up to explain behavior by observing the responses and took place when particular stimuli are present. Okay, so you are performing a thing in such a way. আপনি একটা কাজ করছেন, আপনি একভাবে কাজ করছেন, কেন কাজ করছেন? As we have told earlier, of course you were inspired with some stimuli. কেউ আপনাকে অনুপ্রেরণা দিয়েছে এবং কেউ আপনাকে হয়তো কোনোভাবে আপনি এটা ইন্সপায়ার হয়েছেন, এই জন্য আপনি এটা আপনার হ্যাবিটের অংশ হয়েছে এবং এটা আপনি কোয়াইট ফ্রিকুয়েন্টলি এটা করছেন। ওকে, সো দ্য রেসপন্স অ্যান্ড দ্যাট টুক প্লেস when particular stimuli are present. So there would be a stimulus, there would be a motivation, and through the motivation you are doing or we are acting a thing quite frequently, and it has been a part of your behavior. And different stimuli produces different responses from a learner. That is quite similar with the operant conditioning. That means if you inspire positively to a learner, the learner will be inspired positively, and if you inspire negatively to a learner, the learner will show response negatively, and that will create some result in its second language learning. আপনি যদি কোয়াইট একজনকে বলতেই থাকেন যে তোমার দ্বারা কিচ্ছু হবে না, তোমার দ্বারা কিচ্ছু হবে না, তোমার দ্বারা কিচ্ছু হবে না, তখন যে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ লার্নারের যে অ্যাবিলিটি এটা ফল করবে, এবং ফল করার পরে এমন একটা জায়গায় যাবে যেটাকে বলা হচ্ছে যে ফসিলাইজেশন, যেটাকে বলা হচ্ছে ফসিলাইজেশন। দ্যাট মিনস যত ইনপুটই হোক না কেন ওই লার্নার তখন ওই মোটিভেশনের কারণে তার যে চেষ্টা করা, সেই চেষ্টা করাটা সে ছেড়ে দিবে, যত ভালোই তাকে আপনি পড়ান না কেন সে আর কোনো কিছু শিখবে না। That is called fossilization. So stimulus will be there, and different stimuli will be affected to the different kind of learners in a different way. Positive stimuli will be affected positively, we know that, but the negative stimuli will also be affected the learners negatively. That is learners error, habit and errors. Okay, the responses could be haphazard in the sense that they could not be predicted or they could be regular. Okay, so after getting stimulus, কোনোভাবে উদ্দীপনা পেলেন, সেক্ষেত্রে রেসপন্স, দ্যাট মিনস ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ লার্নিং, ক্যান বি স্পন্টেনিয়াস অর ক্যান বি হ্যাপহাজার্ড। কখনো আপনি ভালোভাবে সেটাকে রেসপন্স করছেন এবং কখনো অথবা এটা রেগুলারলি হচ্ছে এটাকে আপনার রেসপন্স করছে। বাট দ্য মেন থিং ইজ দ্যাট বিহেভিয়ার ইজ কনস্ট্রাক্টেড থ্রু এক্সটেন্সিভ এক্সপোজার টু দ্য টার্গেট থিং, through imitation, through repetition. And how did they learn this? To observe. After observing the infant's language learning situation. How does an infant learn a language? An infant learns a language through imitation and drill. Through imitation and drill, second language learning becomes a part of an infant. In the same way, second language acquisition can be a part of an adult learner's behavior if they are exposed to that second language and through repetition and drill. Okay, so the association of particular response with a particular stimulus constituted a habit, and it was this type of regular behavior that psychologists such as Watson and B.F. Skinner set up to investigate. So they did not also deliver to you the theory, they also deliver to you some research. We will also be seeing the research what Pavlov and Skinner did in terms of behaviorist language theory. Okay, so they wanted to know how habits are established. Who? B.F. Skinner and Watson and also Pavlov. Especially Watson initiated the idea. Watson gave the first idea of behaviorist language theory, and next time Pavlov and Skinner they had their research how habit is constructed, how habits were established to a human being, কিভাবে মানুষের মধ্যে সেই বিহেভিয়ারটা গ্রথিত হয়, কিভাবে ইনসার্টেড হয়, এবং কিভাবে মানুষ একটা বিহেভিয়ার ফর্ম হয়ে গেলে সেই অনুযায়ী কাজ করে। এটা নিয়ে গবেষণা করেছেন কারা? B.F. Skinner and Pavlov, and we will be dealing with that theory here in this class. Behavioral psychologists attributed two important characteristics of habit. The first was that they were observable. So habit, what would be the habit? Habit would be observable. আলাদা আলাদা
দুইটা বিষয়ে গবেষণা করছে।
দুইটা বিষয়ে গবেষণা করেছে।
রাশিয়া আর আমেরিকার লোক একত্রিত এক জায়গায় বসে নাকি?
জি না, Pavlov had been researched with a dog experiment and Skinner has been researched with a rat. একজন ইঁদুর নিয়ে গবেষণা করেছে আর একজন কুকুর নিয়ে গবেষণা করেছে।
আমি ভাবতেছি যে দুইটা শিক্ষা দিয়ে ভাইরাল রিলেশনশিপ একত্রিত হলো কিভাবে?
একত্রিত হলো কিভাবে? কারণ দে আর ইন্সপায়ার্ড